So today in Hunts Runs, we're going to talk in a little bit of a series about my wife's experience with her first tonic, clonic, grand mal seizure, and kind of how the fallout from that occurred. So if you saw my wife's earlier videos, she talked a little bit about how she had kind of had these seizure events from the time she was about 20, 21 years old, but because they were small and sporadic and didn't really impact her life very much, she didn't really tell anybody about it. And just kind of pass it off as like a mild panic attack or moments of anxiety or that were triggered by her being sleep deprived or stressed or anxious or going through large changes in her life. So when we got married, she didn't really mention it to me, and then until we'd been married for about a year. And even then it was kind of I kind of have these moments or episodes where I kind of have a little bit more deja vu, kind of sick to the stomach, but it only lasts for a couple seconds and I'm fine. And because it was so sporadic, we did not really follow up with it too particularly closely. And so we continued that until we'd been married for about 3 years. And then shortly after we had our second daughter, there was a morning where I was able to be home in the morning, and as we were transitioning in the bathroom, we were kind of talking about the day, and we noticed that she had kind of tripped off weird and started smacking her lips and swallowing repeatedly. And as I looked over, I saw that her eyes were unfocused, and then she started to turn and rotate her head to her left away from me, and then her arms came up in a little bit of a posturing position, and then she started to fall. So by this point, I had recognized that my wife was having a large seizure. So following basic first aid principles, caught her, helped her to the ground safely and calmly, waited until her jerking ended. It was probably about 10 to 15 seconds, but it felt like forever. And then as soon as the active seizure ended, and I saw that the muscles had relaxed, I rolled her over onto her side, and I went and I grabbed my phone, I called 911, told them that my wife just experienced a seizure. This had not happened before, no medication was involved, no impact, no fever, and so for them to send an ambulance. While that happened, and as we were in speakerphone, I got dressed, started helping my wife get dressed, and the ambulance arrived on scene. So by that point, she was no longer in the recovery phase. She was becoming a little bit more aware. At this point, she was actually fairly belligerent because, to her memory, she had been talking with me, and the next moment, she was on the ground, surrounded by a bunch of strangers who had told her that she had just had a seizure. So, because it was just her, myself, our 2-year-old, and our month-and-a-half-old, I stayed at home, and my wife went in the ambulance to the emergency room. While they were gone, I was able to call a family from our church congregation, explain what had happened, and somebody was able to come over and keep an eye on and watch over our daughters while I went to the ER. So I went to the ER, and as I found where my wife was, and as I was talking with the ER physician, he was like, well, this looks like it could be a couple of things, but I don't really think that she has had a seizure. I think she probably just stood up too quickly in the morning and had a little bit of what we call postural hypotension. Or when if you're a little bit taller, or if you're sitting for a long time and you stand up, you don't have as much brain and as much blood coming into your brain, so you can feel lightheaded and dizzy. And because my wife was there, and I was not with her, that was kind of what the consensus was, until I arrived. I'm like, hey, my wife had a seizure. What are we doing as far as diagnosis and workup? And I'm like, well, did she hit her head? No. Did she had any medication or drugs or alcohol? No. Okay, well, I don't know if it was a seizure, but we actually could discharge her after we get the results back from some imaging, if you would like. And the decision was no. I would like for her to stay for a little bit more observation to see if this happens again. And the physician said, okay, that's fine, you can wait. And then my wife was really, really tired, and so she took a little bit of a nap. And then after that little bit of time, she kind of woke up and said, hey, I'm not feeling great. And then she started having another general tonic clonic seizure. At which point, I hit the nurse call button, stuck my head out in the hallway, and said, excuse me, my wife is having another seizure. Can we get some help? And so when they came in, they're like, oh yeah, she's having a seizure. And I said, yes. So what do we do next? And so they gave her some medication to take and said, we will get the results back from your imaging shortly. But at this point, y'all can go home and support each other, and then we will contact you if we need to do additional conversations or workups.